Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jessica Spencer. I'm a partner marketing coordinator at Perficient, and I'm excited to be hosting today's webinar, Financial Transformation in Healthcare. So time permitting, we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the event. So please type your questions into the Q&A tab just to the right of your screen, and feel free to do this at any time during the presentation. Two questions often come up during our online events. Can I get a copy of the slides? And can I get a link to the recording? The answer to both questions is yes. We will email you with the information on how to access both of those after today's event. So to kick things off, I'd like to introduce you to today's speakers, Nandini Nehru and Dave Collins. So Nandini has worked for over 10 years on various projects, performing analysis, design, development, configuration, and testing of applications. She has extensive background implementing CPM solutions for industries such as healthcare, manufacturing, and oil and gas. Dave has over 25 years of experience and a proven track record as an advisor in analytics and performance management. He has designed BPM, CPM, and EPM solution architectures for a wide range of industries and is a published author on multidimensional analysis. So let's go over what you're going to see from us today. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about Perficient and our OneStream and healthcare practices. After that, we'll jump into today's discussion on business challenges and common pain points for the healthcare industry, as well as how we can solve them. Then we'll hand it over to Dave, who's going to tell us about OneStream and take us into a live demo showcasing a new OneStream healthcare solution. And as I mentioned, we'll have our Q&A. So Perficient is a global digital consultancy. We were founded in 1997. We have currently around 40 locations worldwide, and for 2022, we are projecting $920 million in revenue. I think what we're most proud of, though, is our 90% repeat business rate. This is really a testament to our commitment to customer success and as a result of the trust and loyalty our clients have with us. We are global in our delivery. We're dedicated to helping the world's biggest brands connect with customers and grow their business. We have multiple US offices, as well as locations in Latin America, Europe, China, and India. So now let's get into our OneStream partnership. Perficient is a OneStream Diamond partner and an authorized training provider. We help companies of today become the companies of tomorrow by implementing the next generation capabilities of OneStream. Perficient has more than 20 years of experience delivering corporate performance management solutions. Our CPM practice is focused on optimizing financial business processes while also aligning workflows and technology to best practices. We have successfully delivered more than 1,500 projects for leading brands across multiple industries, including healthcare. So with that, let's dive into our healthcare practice. Healthcare organizations are reimagining delivery post-COVID. They're prioritizing digital health strategy and solutions, all this while adapting to the new norm. At Perficient, we combine strategy, data, and technology to shape the experiences and engagement of healthcare consumers. We're also improving the cost and quality of care for consumers. And our dedicated healthcare practice is comprised of experts who understand the unique challenges facing the industry. Many of them are coming from the payer or provider space. We are trusted by the 10 largest health systems and health insurers in the US. And this year, Modern Healthcare recognized us as the 4th largest healthcare IT consulting firm and the 8th largest management consulting firm in healthcare. So with that, let's get into today's discussion. I'm going to hand it over to Nandini to talk about the business challenges that healthcare organizations are facing today.
Thank you, Jessica, for that introduction, and a very good morning to all of you. Hope you're all having a wonderful week thus far. All right, let's jump right into understanding our healthcare industry today. I understand that we all belong to the healthcare industry in some capacity or the other, but I feel like it's important to lay down some basics before we begin into the meat of the presentation today. While what I discussed today are all facts, it may not be obvious for everyone. Currently, our healthcare industry is in a massive state of expansion and acquisition, driven mostly by accelerated demand of services, labor shortages, changing modalities in patient care, and new government regulations. Now, some say these are post-pandemic effects, but I like to believe that this was happening even before the pandemic. It's probably more accelerated now. As more and more healthcare organizations consolidate and merge, they need to closely examine the benefits of and define the possible synergies and cost savings coming out of these mergers. As a result of these factors, what we've observed, both in the healthcare provider and payers, they are facing mounting pressures to get most out of their financial systems. They are looking very closely at the ways to maximize their investment in these corporate performance management tools and to manage the aspect of their own financial health. As a result of Perficient's rich experience, we have assisted in numerous healthcare organizations that have embarked upon these financial transformations. And that's what we are here to discuss today. Now, let's try to define what those challenges really are. But before we even get into those pain points, let's describe why are those challenges more prominent in the healthcare organization. What you have in front of you is a simplified version of an org chart at a healthcare company. Most healthcare companies will have a clinical or a hospital area that you see on the left side of the chart, and then in education and a research wing at the very least. Obviously, there would be the administration wing as well, with support departments like facilities, IT, HR, and so on and so forth. Now, the org chart might look different at different organizations. What I mean by that is maybe all of these roll up under the same central finance, or maybe each of these business areas are being maintained and managed by different CFO. While hospital and clinics are the main front-end revenue generators, research and education also play an equally important part and fuel the organization's overall growth and expansion. These different business units are called shields or business areas in some organizations. These business areas are so different that it is almost like you're working with three different companies and trying to align their financial systems into one enterprise-wide system. A lot of times when we go in a project, we are building either one area at a time, like a system for one area at a time, and then integrating it all together for reporting and analysis into a reporting solution. Or what we are building is a common system from the get-go that works for all. I would ask the question here, what's so difficult about that, right? So let's take a look a little bit deeper into these org charts. What you have in front of you is just a hospital only org chart. What you have is a typical traditional view of how the GL systems are broken out. You could have different hospitals arranged by different geographical locations, mostly being focused on how they are organized by legal entities in the GL system. But that is not how a healthcare organization likes to look at their profit and loss statements. What they like to look at is their horizontal view of data, which is by the service line or profit centers. Now, what do you mean by service lines? Areas, so like these hospitals could be offering services in orthopedics or cardiacs or surgeries, and what these organizations like to look at their data is in that fashion. They want to see how orthopedic services is performing in all these different geographical locations. Now let's take a look at another view of the same organization. What you have in front of you is an education only org chart. There are some faculty members that could be serving as clinical doctors as well. Now, the revenue for a university or education area is coming from the different types of courses or being offered to the students, the course fee, different types of schools, and so on and so forth. The expenses side needs to be managed and planned more closely because of the dependency on the clinical doctors. Similarly, research wing is equally important, and it manages the businesses using a lot of fund accounting principles, which are quite different than what you see in a hospital or in an education or a university business area. What I described so far are different org charts for mostly provider-based companies. However, these provider-based organizations could also have payer components. In fact, payers play a very important role in provider companies as well, specifically in the revenue reimbursements, and organizations like to review the net revenue impact by payer. This slide shows you how a typical payer-based organization is structured, where you can see different state-based plans, which are further broken out by different products being offered in each of these states. Companies like to analyze their profit margins by these different products, and membership counts become an important driver for these models. There are obviously other support departments in these organizations also, just like compliance and reimbursements, and they are important to study for the bottom line of the organization as well. I think looking at these different org charts and come to think of it that these could all belong to the same healthcare company will tell you exactly what we are dealing with. So I would define our business challenges based on the different org charts on this slide as follows. You obviously have very siloed or disconnected departments that could have very different financial processes, probably different drivers, different planning models. Sometimes they are even on different calendars. You obviously have different cultures, different management, and very different operational systems that you're dealing with. Secondly, because of this, there is little to no standardization. Now, I do not want to say that you want to standardize it all across the board and use the same structure or model. They are different businesses, in fact, but I think there are synergies and dependencies that we can leverage in a system. Thirdly, it is surprising to me how many of these billion-dollar companies are still using Excel. In fact, for a lot of CPM tools, Excel is sort of our biggest competitor. And because of that, you have a lot of manual file-based processes, and these different businesses are using these manual processes and Excel files to manage their finances. The fourth problem here, or the challenge here, is the data collection part. Because of these different organizations or different businesses in the same organization, you have a lot of other ancillary systems like Epic, Adaptive, Workday, sometimes even homegrown systems that these different areas are using. So to collect the data from all of these systems, and of course there is a timing aspect of it as well, and pull it in an enterprise-wide system becomes another challenge that we have to solve for. And all of this being fueled by a continued growth and expansion and this ever-changing space is one of the biggest challenges in the healthcare industry. Now let's dig a little bit deeper into these common pain points that we see across on our projects. What we've done here is we've kind of divided it into some of our provider-based projects and highlighted the pain points there, and then a few of those from payer side as well. Let's dig a little bit deeper into each. I'm going to cover the top 4 listed here in my presentation today. So revenue models that lack flexibility and depth. A lot of projects, especially planning, start with discovering revenue models for obvious reasons. You want your revenue model to be straightened out first so that you can clearly identify the strategy and vision for the company. You can offset the cost, so justify new developments, talk about fund generation, and so on and so forth. So one of the most common pain point in these organizations is that they have revenue model that lacks flexibility and depth. Either all of them are using the same generic model in a tool that was just put together, or they are using very siloed Excel-based models that no one can combine and analyze at enterprise level. So how would we define that requirement? What you're really trying to solve here is to create an integrated model that can satisfy what we call different dimensionality or business specific definitions for each of these different businesses. What are the probable causes of this? You obviously have different types of revenue, like I mentioned in my different org charts that I was showing, that you have different business areas with very different types of revenue and different types of volume metrics that they're using to derive those revenues. So for example, medical services revenue, you want to be able to use patient type, funding source, and or different types of volume measures like emergency visits, patient days, inpatient days, outpatient visits, or payer mix as the driver, and also be able to analyze at that level of detail. Education revenue, on the other hand, you want to use number of students, course fee, maybe different types of schools as the driver for revenue. Another example of this would be pharmacy revenue. In pharmacy revenue, you either want to use pharmacy scripts as the driver or perhaps historical trends to project out revenue and expenses. In short, you want revenue planning that allows modeling by different types of dimensions like service line, departments, payers, and yet be able to integrate all of this at the enterprise level. So I'm going to define each pain point in a similar fashion. I'm going to define it for you, have the requirement listed, and then comes how do we solve for it. Once you have identified the different drivers, what we like to do on our projects is come up with a matrix. This matrix tells us the revenue type that we are trying to solve for, the different dimensions that we build across as well, and then each driver to these dimensions is identified. What you have in front of you is sort of a form design that we typically build on these projects. On the left side of the column, you have different departments or cost centers. And then across on the columns, you see the different types of revenue. We allow the planner or the director to basically be able to select a volume driver. So for example, on this slide, anesthesiology department inpatient revenue is driven off by the volume measure called inpatient days. This type of form is maintained at the planner level. This gives them the flexibility to choose a driver by business area. We also have multi-dimensions, which we can build based on service line, pair mix, and different types of patient. And this allows for the planners to be able to do analysis at all these different dimensions. Dave will show you in his demo how all of this looks like in OneStream as well. Now let's move on to our next challenge here. Because of the processes being manual and siloed, a lot of time is spent on actually inputting the data versus analysis and process improvement. This is where our next challenge or pain point comes to light. Inflexible, non-driver based model. You have decentralized, manually maintained Excel files. There is no auditing, no versioning, there is no security, and that forces folks to plan at a much higher level than desired. What you want here is to be able to create integrated plans at enterprise level, be able to create models that uses predictive analytics, allow for scenario modeling, and then finally be able to show dashboards that include all of these KPIs and drivers side by side. So let's talk about how we solve for it. One of the most common feature that we use is using a guided workflow process. This guided workflow process is essentially a step-by-step business process that is defined in the product that planners can use to input the drivers first, do the calculation, and then view the results in the reports. A lot of these volume and metric driven models are waterfall models. For example, the revenue drivers are ultimately driving the expenses side. So we build our calculations based on a waterfall model where the volume drives the final expenses. Thirdly, we make sure we build dimensions that track drivers based on either calculated data versus direct input. So we have a dimension that allows people to either directly input the data, and then in another member, we let them see what the result was calculated. We also identify the KPIs and correlation factors that we can show on the dashboards. The final result of all of this is an integrated dashboard that shows the comparison of revenue by pair, revenue by volume, and then expense by different categories. The next most common pain point in these provider organizations is difficulty linking staffing to volume ratios. A lot of times, the providers and practitioners' staffing is based on changes to volumes. Now, this direct relation is not evident unless you build those KPIs and dashboards to be able to view those. There is also physician to support staff ratio analysis that needs to be done. So the way we define this requirement is first, develop the correlations and factors between different volume measures and personnel expenses. Second, develop the dashboards that show the volume, revenue, and the related FTE/personal experience. And lastly, develop better processes to demonstrate using guided workflow how the volumes updated would impact on the expenses side. Let's take a look at how we solve for it. The first step is to define the FTE planning. Will it be done at different job code category levels, or will it be done at the employee or position level? Once we have defined these different levels of planning, sometimes it happens that you want some FTEs, for example, let's say the providers or physicians, you want to plan at the employee level versus the support staff that you want to plan at a higher level. So that mixed FTE planning can also be built into the solution. Third step is to define the FTE to the service line KPIs and drivers. So basically productivity ratios is what I'm talking about here. So we create a lot of calculations or ratios that serve as KPIs to measure the FTEs as the volume measures changes. Fourthly, scenario modeling also plays an important role. We let the staffing model be directly input using volume measures, or sometimes a driver is built, and then the planners can basically compare the results and see if the correlation with the volume actually makes sense or not. And all of this can be analyzed on a dashboard as well. The last pain point that I would like to talk about today is the difficulty linking annual plans to strategic plans. So a lot of these healthcare organizations have these annual plans, which are more operational plans that you have distributed and probably being built bottoms up, versus the strategic plans that a central finance team would build. These strategic plans are based on acquisitions or strategic initiatives, and there is difficulty in developing these plans because these come from top down. Sometimes these are at such high level that the integration of the two plans, meaning the operational and strategic plans, becomes a challenge. There is also inability in Excel-based models or other tools to predict different types of scenarios and model the outcomes. So the way I would define this requirement is, first requirement is the ability to obviously plan at different levels for strategic versus annual. Second, to be able to integrate the two plans so that you can analyze the results and maybe sometimes even push down the strategic plan to the annual operating plan as a starting point. And thirdly, to allow for the scenario modeling. The cause for this issue is probably there are different teams building strategic plans versus annual plans. Also, there are different levels at that these plans are being built at. And lastly, you have different models, calculations, and drivers that are being used in these different plans. So next question becomes, how do we solve for it? So the way we approach our projects is we sometimes build one application or multiple applications that are integrated through the system. We also establish data integration through different data sources like the EHR applications like Epic or Cerner, the GL systems, or sometimes the other operational data. While there may not be a direct connection, a file-based integrations can also be used. Third, we also built dashboards that can pull the data from multiple scenarios. So from strategic versus annual, from best case scenario to worst case to average case as well. And all of those shown on the same dashboard allows for better analysis and view of the data. We also integrate strategic plans with annual plans so that you can view and use the data in the same fashion. Business workflows, the guided workflows that I talked about in a couple of slides before, also allow you to create these workflows based on the time and planning level. So we can have an annual workflow that's for strategic plan versus a more monthly level workflow, which is for your annual plan. And those guided workflows, which are time-based and planning level based, are very helpful as well. So now that I have kind of talked about the different pain points at these projects, what I want to talk about next is at Perficient, we have implemented all of these different types of projects and solved for these pain points. We've built revenue planning. It's a checklist of all of our projects that we've done. So revenue planning using service line modeling, driver-based modeling using clinical efforts and average RVUs, volume-based planning. We've done position planning, fund allocations using position or FTE, sometimes the mixed FTE planning as well. The non-salary cost planning using driver-based fixed and variable. We've built integrations to different healthcare systems like Epic, PeopleSoft, Cerner as well. We've done long-range planning, rolling forecasts. We've built a lot of KPIs and salary roster kind of reports as well. And then we've also worked on the consolidations piece where specifically in the payer side, there is a whole restatement process when the membership counts come in. There is management of health plans by state and then data collection as well. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the different projects and the pain points that we've seen across healthcare. I would like to leave you all with the ebook asset that we have also built. Please reach out to me or Jessica, and we'll be happy to share. This is a PDF ebook that we've created that kind of goes into more details on these pain points and how we solve for it on our different projects as well. With that, we like Dave to take over and kind of talk more about OneStream and kind of demo how all of these solutions would work in OneStream and how they actually look like in the product as well.
So first off, hi everyone, this is Dave Collins. I'm a Director of Solutions Consulting here at OneStream Software. I'm responsible for a team of folks that work with our partners, great partners like Perficient, and I'm very happy to be part of this presentation today. What I'm going to do to start is explain a bit about OneStream as a company, and then I'm going to do a bit of demonstration with an example from a healthcare perspective. So first off, OneStream is a software company that's been around now for a bit more than a decade. We focus in on performance management, more on that in a few moments. Our major focus, however, is on 100% customer success and, in turn, the success of our partners. About 94% of the implementations, the deployments, are done by our partner community. We leverage those partners in areas such as healthcare. So at the bottom of the screen, we actually have customers, more than 1,000 customers now, across myriad walks of life, if you will, with retail and mining and oil and gas, healthcare being the specific thing we're talking about today. We have small customers, medium customers, large and extra large customers, more than 125 now, in excess of 10 billion. I point out some of these statistics because I've been with OneStream now for a couple of years, and when I first started 2 years ago, we were less than 600 customers. We've had a tremendous amount of growth just in the last couple of years, both from a customer perspective as well as from an employee standpoint. At our recent conference called Splash in San Antonio, this slide popped up and I took a picture of it. It really expresses the good fortune that we've had with our customers. That 100% customer success has actually spurred a lot of growth. We've experienced 216% customer growth since the end of 2019, so roughly the last 2.5 years. And the logos from those great customers are shown here on screen. Now, we focus on the customer, we focus on 100% customer success, and we do so by way of providing a great platform for performance management. Now, notice I said performance management because there are several different acronyms, phrases, if you will, floating around. When I was with Hyperion in the early 2000s, we talked about BPM, or Business Performance Management. Gartner at that time and OneStream today talks about corporate performance management, and then the likes of Oracle and SAP and others speak about enterprise performance management. At the end of the day, they're really all the same thing, and truly, it's the application of analytics to solve for problems. Now, when I talk about problems or challenges, there's many different types that organizations experience. You've got external forces. We've certainly had a lot of that, too much of that over the last couple of years with the pandemic, with supply chain issues. Who'd have thought that a container ship getting caught in the Suez Canal for a week would cause such a ripple effect in many of the supply chain areas? The middle section here talks about internal complexities, and largely this is because organizations don't have an enterprise view of themselves. They don't have systems that provide all of the answers. And unfortunately, for a lot of folks, that means a lot of work in Excel. Nandini talked about heavy use of Excel in healthcare. We see that in really every type of industry that we work with. In a similar fashion, people and operations can become siloed when you're trying to do good. You're trying to actually focus in on a particular topic or two or three or four. That siloed approach becomes more of the same with regard to internal complexities, just a lack of ability to see on an enterprise basis what's going on. During the presentation, the early part of the presentation, Nandini showed this slide, and I thought it was relevant to what I'm talking about. Nandini talked about disconnected departments, no standardization, manual processes, lack of data collection, or the inability to get the data from all of the sources, and certainly growth. Highly acquisitive companies tend to experience all of these things. Now, performance management came on the scene in the early 2000s with the work of Hyperion and others to create an approach, a view to solve for these problems. One side of it, what I'll call the left side of it, since it's on the left side of the screen, is the what happens side of it, establishing a book of record, doing the close process, the consolidation process, potentially doing statutory or regulatory reporting. You also have the what could happen, or the FP&A, or the planning, budgeting, forecasting side of it. Nandini talked earlier about operational planning, the bottom up, if you will, and then the strategic planning, the top down. We refer to this as connected planning or integrated business planning. There are several different terms for it, but it really is the ability to plan at whatever level of detail might be pertinent. Real challenge with the left side and right side here is that they're typically, or have typically, been about a point in time, a periodic view, an end of month, an end of quarter, an end of period view of the world. What we believe is that a big part of what's lacking is the ability to see what's happening, what's around us now, so that we can be much more proactive. And that means that we need to get into the financial, the operational side at the same time. We need not end of period, meaning end of month or end of quarter or end of year. We need what's happening today, what's happening this week. One of our customers, Teledyne, did a great job of applying the left side and the right side. They replaced some other software for performance management and a lot of Excel. They increased or improved their processes tremendously. Close process reduced by 4 days. They're applying now a free solution from our marketplace called account reconciliations into the application, saving them a lot of money on an annual basis, $100K, because they didn't have to leverage a third-party product to do so. Then they went and looked at the middle part, the operational part. They pulled in data from various procurement systems. They reasoned very quickly that they had several contracts with the same supplier, and the distinguishing factor was it was on a different department basis. Challenge there is they're not leveraging, or weren't leveraging at the time, spend. They weren't leveraging volume discounts with that vendor. So they renegotiated those contracts, and they're now saving, in their words, dozens of millions of dollars per year. So performance management, in a little bit deeper dive, is meant to pull information in from source systems. To do the left side, financial consolidation and close. Oftentimes, for other vendors, multiple solutions. Same thing on the right-hand side, planning, budgeting, forecasting with multiple solutions. Often trying to tie them together with a reporting construct, a data mart. Dimensionalizing the data to make it easier to do analytics. Ultimately delivering the information into the hands of those that need it, stakeholders, business users, influencers. And the real challenge in this very disconnected or fragmented world is we have to connect it. We have to synchronize, we have to integrate all of the data, not just from the source systems, but from place to place. We decided there was a different way, a better way of approaching this. By getting rid of multiple applications, multiple modules, multiple databases, and simply having a platform that enables all of performance management, the left hand, the right side, the middle, all-in-one solution where we can bring data in through a financial data quality engine. We can then make it available for reporting and analytics, or financial close and consolidation, or planning, budgeting, forecasting. Now, why did we do this? Well, we saw over the last few decades an evolution with performance management. And the organizations need to evolve in that same way, moving away from the basic, where we're largely doing a lot of point-based solutions, typically leveraging the likes of Excel, perhaps Access if it's too big, all the way to the right-hand side where we're getting more transformational, where we're enabling by way of machine learning and data science so that we can be much faster and much more accurate. Polaris, one of our great customers, is leveraging our new data science capability to do some predictive forecasting. And again, at our Splash conference, they talked about increasing the efficiency and the accuracy of their forecast by 14.2%. That has tremendous bottom line influence. Generally speaking, we have retained every customer that's ever joined the OneStream family, with two exceptions. Sadly, if they've gone out of business or if they've been acquired by somebody else. That's one way that we measure ourselves. Another way is to look at the voice of the customer, not through the direct interaction, but indirectly through Gartner Peer Insights. Gartner reviews the software. Peer Insights from Gartner allows the customer to review the software. And we score very well in those two basic areas of performance management: cloud financial close as well as cloud FP&A. When I look at the rest of the analysts, Gartner and others, we score in the top tier of their various categories. Now, when it comes to our customers in healthcare, in pharma, in this world of healthcare in general, we have a number of them. It's a tremendous growth area for us, especially because of partners like Perficient. In a bit more detail, what are they actually doing with the software? How are they solving for these problems? Well, for Dooley Healthcare and CHG and a number of others, they're doing account reconciliations, they're doing transaction matching, part of the record to report process. I'm going to focus on those because that allows us to get into tremendous detail. So we've talked about operational planning, which is tremendously detailed. We have the ability in our platform to bring operational detail, transaction level detail into OneStream and leverage it to do a data science exercise to create a better forecast. We also provide the ability for users to do the planning, budgeting, forecasting at that operational level of detail. So how do we do this? Well, more than a decade ago, when we created the approach with OneStream, we decided to make a platform that provided tremendous financial intelligence. We decided to start by helping out the users to be successful with process. So we created a workflow engine that enables a dependency basis. You must be successful with the steps along the way so that you can get through, in this case, a financial close and consolidation process. We also provided the ability inside of the platform to do a lot of the math that organizations leveraging other software tools had to create by way of business rules. Some organizations we work with have been able to eliminate thousands of business rules. We feel that performance management should have built into it the ability to do the things you need to do as it relates to performance management. We're also providing the ability to bring in whatever level of detail might be pertinent to you on a dimensional basis so that you can leverage revenue by customer, by order, by SKU, or you can do a plan of your costs by department, by employee. All of this together also enable us and our ecosystem of partners to create specific solutions that are available for free in our marketplace. We license the software on a user basis, not on a functional or a data basis or an application basis. So in our marketplace, we have productivity tools, financial close and reporting tools. We have planning and analysis tools. We provide extensibility by way of the solutions in that marketplace. You can download, configure, and deploy any of these, sometimes with the help of a partner like Perficient. In some cases, guided reporting is a plug-and-play solution where I download it and I simply make it available to my users. And last but not least, we provide the ability to leverage visualization, analytics, so that we can provide insight at whatever level of detail might be pertinent. Our goal is to make OneStream be the one place that a user can go for virtually any information about the function. And down at the bottom there, you see full auditability and transparency. Oftentimes when regulators come in or auditors come in, they need to see the process and what has taken place throughout. So in total, what we provide by way of the OneStream platform is that platform. It eliminates the need to stitch together and integrate multiple applications or multiple solutions. We bring the data in through a data quality engine. We make the data available for reporting and analytics, financial close and consolidation, planning, budgeting, forecasting. We are leveraging Microsoft Azure to provide the best world-class SaaS solution on the market. So let me give you a feel for what this looks like. First and foremost, and let me go ahead back up to my home page. This is a demonstration that our demo team put together to provide some food for thought, art of the possible with regard to healthcare. Notice on the left-hand side, I have several different categories I can go into, my executive overview, I've got my annual hospital budget, nursing budget, and the like. I can click on any of these to get to where I need to go, and then within, I can further navigate by way of buttons along the side, tabs along the top. The look and feel is completely up to your needs. We start with a blank canvas. We don't force feed a way that you should be doing anything. So Perficient would come in with their great talent in healthcare, work with you as an organization to determine what you all need. From those requirements, create a design and then leverage our platform to provide that for you. Now, in this particular view, I'm looking initially at some statistical information. I might want to take it up a level and look at my overview. My overview is going to give me that bird's eye view showing me my gross patient revenue, my total expenses, my IP admissions, OP visits, and full-time equivalents. Down below, I have various charts that can be interchangeable. They can be swapped out. I see my volume status, my revenue status, my expense status, and more. All of these provide further detail beneath. For example, I can see that right now gross patient revenue is up. If I click on it, I can get into the details. In this case, showing me by practice, actual forecast budget and budget by quarter on a multi-year basis with a chart to give me a visualization of those numbers. So rather than just look at the grid, I can actually see right away that surgery leads the pack, followed shortly by cardiology. I can look at my expenses in the same way. When I click on expenses, in this case, a different view. I want to see the detail month by month. I can see labor, I can see G&A, I can see supplies, I can see other. Now that's my overview. At the top, I'm currently looking at this for First General Hospital, which is one of the hospitals in my system. I'd like to look at it for Children's. It's just a click away. So removing the disconnected nature that we typically see with organizations within healthcare and other, simply providing a singular model for the enterprise in total on a summary basis, all the way down to a highly detailed view of that data, where I can look for this hospital at births, discharges, IP visits, total visits. It's all just a click away and very, very quick to repaint. Now, down below that, I have access to a series of statistics available to me. I have my service line statistics, my seated service line statistics. I can actually select the statistics that I would like to look at. Right now, I'm looking at cardiology. Perhaps I'll add orthopedics, pediatrics, and surgery into the mix as well. I can look at this instead by entity, choosing the hospital across the top. And then down below that, I can see a revenue basis, my payer mix, my expenses, and then last but not least, guided reporting. Now, from a revenue perspective, I see access to my hospitals, much like I saw before. I can see within the hospital the service line. If I chose to save this data off, I could do so. I could also look at this rather than by service line, by entity, by metric. So in effect, pivoting that data, if you will, so that I'm now focusing in on my gross patient revenue or my IP revenue, and then painting the picture both graphically on the right-hand side and down below, as well as on a by service line perspective in my report. When it comes to my payer mix, I can see my inpatient reimbursement, my outpatient reimbursement, my ancillary reimbursement, ancillary revenue, ancillary reimbursement as well. I can see this again by hospital and by payer. Take it up a level to look at all payers, and then on the right-hand side, getting a breakdown of each of the payers in detail. Have a look at my payer mix now on a percentage basis so I can get a better feel from it if that chart was not enough for me. And then last but not least, a payer reimbursement summary. Now, this is our view based upon needs that have been communicated to us by our customers and by our partners. This is not a view necessarily that is pertinent to you. So again, the power of the platform is such that we can create the solution that is most pertinent to you and your needs. Pivoting now to expenses, I have the ability to look at total expense, a breakdown by category, a chart as well, and across the top, moving from my expense summary perhaps to labor, by labor drivers. Now, labor drivers is where we often spend a lot of time trying to create that vision of the future, where I'm actually entering in either manually or leveraging historical perspective on a detail level and creating the drivers that then will influence my forecast. There's my labor detail, my labor by service line. Again, whatever view makes the most sense, depending upon the organization, depending upon the users within the organization, that can be painted quickly and easily. Now, last but not least, having the ability to get away from this more demand-based reporting and analytics into the published view. Guided reporting is one of the solutions from our marketplace that enables us to create books of reports. We choose the point of view across the top. What month are we looking at? What year? Do I want to look at a monthly or year-to-date view of this data? Which facility in this case? I might start by business unit. Right now I'm looking at my total health system. I can choose hospitals, clinics, corporate services. And then within the hospital system, either all of them or a particular one. On the side, I can see my columns. Right now I'm looking at budget monthly trend. I might want to look at my actual versus forecast versus budget on a monthly basis. I'm viewing that from my income statement. I might want to look at this on a supplies basis. Or what I can do is select all of these together in some way, shape, or form and publish them as a book of reports, or in fact, leverage another solution in our marketplace called the Parcel Service, actually named after one of our customers, United Parcel. Leverage the Parcel Service to create a book of reports and then push that out to everyone that might need to see it. So again, just in summary, the approach that we take to performance management is to provide the best platform possible so that a partner like Perficient can work with you with their industry expertise, in this case with healthcare, to solve for the problems that you have individually, rather than take a more vanilla approach to selling applications that may or may not meet your needs. The platform includes everything that you require to solve for the problem. We don't believe in selling on an a la carte basis. We simply license users to the platform so that all users can have access to whatever it is they might require. Now, of course, there's a security model that will disallow users from seeing what they're not allowed to see, but that simply becomes a requirements and design decision. So with that, I'm going to hand it back and see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Dave. So we're now going to open up the call to questions that have come in via the chat. If you haven't already done so, please get your questions in. It's just to the right of your screen, the little Q&A tab. But I'm going to go ahead and start us off with the first question that came in. So this question is for Nandini, it looks like. Justin would like to know, can you please explain how would you build a service line based model in a traditional department level view of GL in more detail?
Sure. Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Justin, for that question. So I think that's actually a very good question, because typically, like I was explaining in one of my slides, that more traditional view of an organization is based on like legal entities or geographical regions, and that's how your consolidation system would try to consolidate the data up. However, when you start looking at the planning side of it, you want to be able to kind of view the data by service line. So in OneStream, like Dave was showing, there is extensible data feature that allows you to add more details to the dimension and extend it out for planning needs or for any other additional cubes, and add the service line either as an extension to department or cost center dimension that you already have, or probably create it as a separate dimension and be able to view the data and plan accordingly. So I think the tool provides you with the option of extension of a dimension that's already built for consolidation and kind of add onto it to be able to design and sort of analyze and plan based on a service line. Does that answer your question? Yeah, go ahead.
And just to add to that, a practical example, if you look at, say, an account structure for IT versus a service line like cardiology, you're going to have different metrics that you measure. You're going to have different accounts that you need to capture for each of them. And rather than build out a superset of all the possible metrics and then just use the ones that are pertinent, our belief is that through the platform, you can actually tailor the account or the metrics dimension so that when someone in cardiology is looking at accounts, they're seeing the subset that's pertinent to them. So when Nandini mentioned extensibility, there's quite a fancy phrase called extensible dimensionality that we talk about a lot at OneStream. It's essentially the ability to provide flexibility in a model so that in one application, if I have major or not so major differences between business function or even on a time basis, I might make an acquisition and I need to change my entity structure and I want to see the before and the after. Say I buy a hospital system. One of our customers is Advocate Aurora. Once upon a time, it was Aurora on one side and Advocate on the other. When they came together, they wanted to see the before and the after. And so through extensibility, they can do that.
Thank you, guys. That's great stuff. Looks like we have another question from Megan, and Dave, this would be for you. So how complicated is it for OneStream to be integrated with Epic or Cerner?
Not very complicated at all. We've done it. We actually have connectors in place that can be leveraged. Typically what you'll find is that the notion of an out-of-the-box connector is a bit of a misnomer. We're providing a connection to Epic, which invariably needs to be configured per your use of Epic. Much like if you were connecting to a ledger system, depending upon fields that were being used, you would either add or subtract. So we provide a very flexible approach to connecting to those source systems, and our consulting team would work in conjunction with Perficient to make sure that they had the latest and greatest version of the connector from which to configure. From there, it becomes a matter of hours to a few days to make sure that your connection to Epic, to your implementation of Epic, is working properly.
Okay, thank you, Dave. So it looks like that'll be all the questions for today. So I'll go ahead and close the Q&A portion of today's event. So be sure to check us out online as well at perficient.com. You can find our blog, white papers, upcoming webinars, as well as some great customer stories and some really good content. So feel free to check us out. And as a reminder, there will be an email sent to you with a link to today's event. I'd like to thank our speakers for being here today, and thank you to everyone for joining us. So we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.